Get the cream, precious metals or the crypto things. Your bars are light like the one that's on a Smith machine, but my Maxwell and I ain't.
Welcome to 3Com Commentaries. Oh boy. So, Raw, November 21st, 2022. A little peek behind the curtain. I fell asleep. Legit. And I didn't just nod off with the TV on. I just went to bed. Like, it was just, this show felt every bit 3 hours. So, I am recording this day of release instead of the previous day, which is what I usually do. There was almost literally nothing happening on this show. 3 hours and just about nothing happened. Ever since Triple H took over too, there's been a dearth of news and notes. There's been just little things to talk about. But so we got to get right into the show, which ought to shorten this review a little bit. But, you know, hey, I ain't mad about that. So, Kevin Owens comes out to explain why he joined the Brawling Brutes. I'm just adding Drew McIntyre into the Brawling Brutes for now. So he says that Sami Zayn is his brother, and despite the fact that there are disagreements and whatever Sami's got going on. So it wasn't him that was the reason why he joined this Brawling Brutes team. He joined because of Roman Reigns. Because 2 years ago, he nearly beat Roman Reigns and ended his title run, but the Bloodline continued to interfere. So he's going to help destroy the Bloodline now to prevent this from happening again. This led to Sheamus and the Brawling Brutes coming out. They got a really good reaction to Sheamus. Oi, there's a banger cooking in the stove, mate. Yeah, which I like that. I love that. Basically, Drew McIntyre is tired of the Bloodline monopolizing all the titles and opportunities and saying that's going to end up using their power and saying that's going to change. This led to the Judgment Day coming out, which was really random. They wanted everybody to rise and show respect to Judgment Day because they run Raw. Dominic Mysterio called Ray a deadbeat, said for them to go back to SmackDown and tell him how well he's doing on Raw. Then Finn Balor says that he's coming to collect a debt that AJ Styles owes him, and I hope the Bloodline smashes the Brawling Brutes, of which I am now counting Kevin Owens among them. Sheamus then calls Finn Balor a plastic patty. It says that he's the kind of plastic patty he's come to hate, an Irishman in the United States or whatever. Balor then tells Sheamus plastic patty? Salt looks like sugar. He said, I'm a salty bastard. To which Sheamus demanded he prove it, so they decided to fight. And the brick brawl led to a 6-man tag challenge, which is what occurred. Before we get into the match itself, Sheamus and Finn Balor. That's actually interesting. I don't think they've ever worked against each other in WWE before, at least or anywhere that I can imagine. So I was looking forward to that being the match, but then when I saw a 6-man tag, I was like, well, clearly you're not going to beat Finn Balor, just a couple of days before he wrestles AJ Styles. They're not. Triple H isn't that stupid, is he? No, he dodged that. He dodged that dumb bomb. So he made it a 6-man tag so Dominic can get pinned. But the plastic patty comment, it kind of went over people's heads, but I got it. I understood what it meant. But salt looks like sugar. Indeed it does. And I could tell you there's some really, really mean jokes you could play on people who like sugar. And it involves coffee, tea, things like that. I'm not saying I did that to my dad once, but I'm saying that he doesn't let me make him coffee anymore. Let's put it like that. But I'm also like half blind, so it was also an honest mistake. But, hey, shit happens. So the match was a 6-man tag. The Judgment Day versus the Brawling Brutes. The brogue kick to Dominic led to the victory. Kevin Owens gave a stunner to Finn Balor after the match. The OC actually came out too to stop Dominic from running away earlier in the match. So it was fine. I didn't hate it. I could have done without it. I think well, look, considering they're on two separate brands, there's not much overlap between these two teams. And they just wanted to give the Brawling Brutes, I guess, a win to get them some momentum going into the show. And since Damian Priest and Dominic don't have a match at the show, it was fine, I suppose. It was all right. Rhea Ripley had a match later, though. So, speaking of which, let's go into the women's War Games scenario, which, oh boy. Okay, so we waited until the third hour of the show to even look at one of these women, and Bianca Belair comes out with Asuka. Asuka comes out to Bianca's theme. Very weird. Bianca says that she's won battles, but the war is not over, but she can't do it alone. They go through the different members of the team and say that on Friday, there will be the fifth member will be announced on SmackDown. Bayley said that it sounds like Bianca is stalling. She can't find anyone because nobody likes her. In fact, nobody respects her. And that her teammates are basically just sucking up to her so that they can get title matches. And it says that if she was a real leader or a real champion, she would be the one fighting Rhea Ripley, not sending Asuka. So that was basically it. The crowd is dead for most of this show. I don't know where they were. I think they were in Albany, New York. But this show didn't have great crowd interaction at all. And it really shows you the difference between AEW and WWE, where AEW crowds, the show would be 12 hours, and they'll be hanging on, fighting for 10 of them, where a WWE crowd is either dead from the opening bell to the end, or they have spurts of excitement. But it's becoming really obvious. Now, yes, there are many more WWE fans. And the longer these matches have gotten, the bigger this problem has gotten, I think. Where, they're kind of waiting for things to occur and nothing is going to occur. I think they also took the air out of the crowd when they announced that, oh yeah, we're doing our fifth member tonight. It'll be Friday or whatever. I think by telling people that, they just kind of like, okay, well then what's about to happen here? And then it was like, okay, Asuka and Rhea Ripley are about to have a pretty good match. And then we're going to brawl to go off the air. And that's what happened. They brawled to go off the air. And it was just one big old shrug. It didn't feel special. Nothing felt like it really mattered. They had jumped Mia Yim earlier in the night. So it wasn't like, but it didn't lead to anything. Like, you would think that just to add some spice to this angle, you would have done something like they jumped the OC, being the Judgment Day. They jumped the OC in the parking lot, they were backstage, but they led to fighting in the parking lot, which was pretty exciting. But they would have done something to Michin that would play into the War Games match. Like, I think that you could have done something really simple. Like, had Rhea Ripley slam her hand into the door. Like, there's a door right there, right? Just have, like, Rhea Ripley just continuously smash Mia Yim's hand in the door and try to take her out of the match. That would have added so much more heat to specifically those two being in a feud and those two being in this match. It would have been like a question of whether she can even come back and help in the brawl or whatever. Or you could have just led to Bayley and her team beating down Bianca and her team on the go home show, which, instead of having a 50-50 booked situation in which, one person jumps on an entire crowd or whatever. You know what I mean? It's just little things you could do to make this a little bit more exciting, a little bit more interesting from a storytelling perspective, and to further some characters and some individual stories that are within it. Something as simple as Rhea Ripley trying to take Mia Yim out from attacking her from behind. It's something that little. But instead, we just got feckless punching and people jumping. Whatever. Asuka versus Rhea Ripley was fine. I didn't feel the need to stay up to watch it, so I watched it this morning. So it was fine. I didn't hate it. I don't dislike either girl. I think they have pretty good matches. We got to do something about this crowd reaction, though. I think women have been the main event of most of these Triple H shows, and it's hard to say whether it's a good thing or a bad thing because these, of course, the third hour of Raw consistently tanks in ratings, but it's also a prestigious spot to be in the main event of Raw, and Triple H is making it pretty normal for the women to be in the main event. Which, you know, at this point, it's not a battle worth fighting, but it's an interesting thing. So also now Bianca and her team will be at a disadvantage, which just about anybody with common sense would have known was going to occur. You don't put the baby faces in an advantage in that situation. You always put them in a disadvantage. That's just how the war game storytelling is told. And so that's why I say like, hanging losses on people over it just kind of doesn't make sense, but whatever. It does beg the question, what are they going to do in the Usos versus Sheamus and Drew McIntyre? Because if the Usos lose, not only does Drew McIntyre and Sheamus have beaten the tag team champions, who are now the longest reigning tag team champions, but they also put the Bloodline at a disadvantage at the show. But if you reverse things and you have the Usos beat Drew McIntyre and Sheamus, well, you kind of shit on Drew McIntyre and Sheamus. So they probably should rethink that. It probably would have been better off with it being Sami Zayn taking a pin or Solo Sikoa getting disqualified or something like that. Or Jey Uso wrestling a match by himself and getting pinned. Or Jimmy Uso wrestling a match by himself and getting pinned. Something like that. Instead of the Usos as a tag team. Like, I don't know what they're thinking, but beating the Usos, which I'm probably sure that the Bloodline are going to win. Hopefully they win. But when I saw their opponents, I was like, yeah, the likelihood of them winning is not very good. I'm not going to lie to you. Despite the fact that Drew McIntyre isn't doing much, he's still coming across pretty bulletproof. And they're not, beating Drew McIntyre every week. They're not even beating him every month. As a matter of fact, I don't think he's lost a match. Well, no, because he lost to Karrion Kross. So I was about to say, I don't think he lost since Clash at the Castle, but he lost to Kross twice. But that's the only person he's lost to. He's not really in a position to get pinned by one of the Usos. While Sheamus kind of is, but they're also putting Sheamus over as being like this really hardcore tough guy. So I don't know. It's going to be an interesting way of booking this whole thing. Oh, I said all of that and forgot to mention how Sheamus beat the tar out of the Dominic Mysterio, which was excellent. It was hilarious. All right, so let's move on. Johnny Gargano. Johnny Gargano's backstage says that Miz cheated the last time they wrestled. He wants a rematch, and that he won't get in Dexter Lumis's business and doesn't expect Dexter Lumis to get into his business tonight. He just wants Dexter to get what he's owed and wants the Miz to face up to what he did. So he goes out there to have this match. It was supposed to be Johnny Gargano versus The Miz. So Johnny Gargano has his entrance, and we find out that it's a remix of his original theme. And some people are just having an absolute meltdown over this. To me, it's vintage WWE. The WWE did the two things that they always do: change somebody's theme song and change somebody's name. It's a WWE staple. The theme song, I don't get. The name, I do get. The name is obviously a copyright thing. Mia Yim likely owns the copyright to her name. It wasn't a Vince McMahon thing. I've been talking about this before. They change people's names to things that they can own. So when they introduced Michin, we knew it was going to be Michin. It was obvious. It was obvious. So I didn't need to really go into any detail about it. They did the same thing with Butch. They basically introduced him as Butch and saying that other people know him by different names, but they've always known him as Butch. It's better than Butch, Michin. It's not, it's all right. It's Korean. She's Korean, so it works. I don't hate it. I think it's all about the presentation, to be quite honest. And her presentation is that she's a female member of the Bullet Club, which I don't know if it fits her. She hasn't really done much of anything since she's joined, but be part of this whole thing with the War Games match. So I guess we'll finally get to her and Rhea in the following weeks after War Games. But the changing of the Johnny Gargano theme song, it's essentially the same song, just with a rearrangement. It's a little bit different. I don't think it's better. I think that it's actually better before. Again, it's a completely unnecessary theme song change, but considering I don't like Johnny Gargano, if it ruins his career, too bad. They can always change it back. I just want to know what the mentality is behind it. Like, the name changes I get. The name changes I understand. The music changes I'll never understand. Because it doesn't really matter. That's what I'm saying. Like, I hate it. I hate the music changes, but I'm not going to complain here. So The Miz comes out, and The Miz is wearing a suit, and he's got a bandage on his hand. And he claimed that he injured himself making TikTok videos because he was chopping a cactus, which that doesn't even sound like anything The Miz was involved with. I don't even understand that. But he says that he's rich, so he does have cacti in his home. Then said that he found Johnny Gargano a replacement opponent, and it was Omos. So The Miz is once again doing business with MVP. Didn't turn out well from the last time he did business with MVP, but he's going to double down and try it again. Johnny Gargano, that's what this match was about showing that Johnny Gargano can actually do the dramatic parts of the wrestling and not just the physical part. Because, everybody's been calling him Johnny Saneface from the Cornette crowd and stuff like that. They've been trying to show that Johnny Gargano can do other things. They're also trying to show that Triple H isn't showing favoritism because he lost this match. And he lost his match but he got more offense than he probably should have. But he still lost the match. But the focus on this match was about how Johnny Gargano can make Omos look good. And so they made sure to get a really good camera angle when Omos was announced so that you could see Johnny Gargano's reaction, the disappointment, the frustration, the concern of Omos coming out there. Of course, Omos was no-selling Johnny Gargano, which is always a smart thing to do because when you have such a big difference. The Miz being interference outside the ring, I don't know if Omos needed The Miz to interfere, but they're telling a story here when it comes to Johnny Gargano's heart and his inability to give up, and how even a guy the size of him can find a way to weaken and slow down Omos. Of course, he ends up losing anyway, but Miz and MVP pretty much did him in. All right, sure, whatever. I'm not tripping about it, I guess. Then we get into the United States Championship division, which seemed like it ate up all of the second hour. What it felt like. It just felt like it ate up most of the show. They had a vignette once again playing Austin Theory's explanation for why he did what he did. It still doesn't make any sense 2 weeks later. Seth Rollins has a backstage interview where he talked about how he asked for this triple threat match so he could take care of two birds with one stone. Saying that he can't tame Lashley, you gotta survive him, but he has a never say die attitude. That Theory lost everything, hit rock bottom, but it's still the stupidest person on earth, and he was dumb for attacking him last week. And it says that they all three are combustible elements, they can all snap at any time, and that he's ready for both of them. Austin Theory, he has super large arms. Like, they showed a shot of him backstage watching Seth Rollins promo. Like, his arms are huge. And you look at him from the side, you're like, damn, is that his bicep? This kid's built. Anyway, he's talking about hitting rock bottom being the best thing that ever happened to him, and that he demands to be taken seriously. The disrespect will end. He basically repeated himself before. And he ended up having a match with Mustafa Ali that nobody cared about, and the crowd chanted, and they basically chanted, "Where's your briefcase?" at Austin Theory. And that was literally the only thing they really chanted all night. They really were not into this match. For starters, Mustafa Ali is a J-Bron who constantly gets beaten up. Second is Austin Theory was made to look like a goof, and now he is Sans' personality. that he just kind of comes out and does serious wrestler stuff because that's what Triple H thinks that he should be, just serious wrestler. I don't know. I think we probably could have played off of cocky young guy for a little bit longer. I mean, Randy Orton did it for 3 or 4 years, being the sort of before you mature into something else. I mean, I think the Viper when he hit that stride, that's when Randy Orton became no longer, the cocky young in your face sort of character. That's kind of when he kind of grew into being a little bit more mature. That was 2009. Again, Randy Orton started in 2002, and then he was in Evolution in 03, from 03 to 05. And then from 05 to 07, he was feuding with Undertaker and stuff like that. But he was still sort of the blue chipper, even though he had been champion already. He had been World Heavyweight Champion. And I think he actually won the WWE title in 07. But he still wasn't, he was still being positioned as being not as young as he was in 04. But that he was sort of the next guy. He could have been the next guy because he was on the ascent along with Cena. So you got, Austin Theory, they're trying to do this a little faster, but they're doing it he's serious. He hit rock bottom. And I'm like, okay, but he could have hit rock bottom a little bit later. Let's show, again, personality is important. Taking away his briefcase, taking away what he brags about, and replacing it with anger. Okay, but I don't know. I think people were more attached to the cockiness and the personality of Austin Theory, more so than just he's a serious guy who's going to have serious wrestling matches. I don't know about that. And then the way they booked this match was 50-50 as hell, because Austin Theory didn't just kill Mustafa Ali. Mustafa Ali actually hit his 450, which is his finish, but ended up selling his ribs, and Austin Theory rolled out of the ring. In the end, Austin Theory won anyway, which, okay, finally, we can say that Austin Theory's on a winning streak. He's won 2 matches. Yay. Over 2 guys that never win, so that was fine. Well, I actually got it on the big screen. It said that if Austin Theory wants to be taken seriously, then let's get serious. That for him to stay right there, and he's going to come out there and give him a sneak peek of Survivor Series. So Austin Theory stayed in the ring, which was okay. That was interesting. As Lashley came to the ring, Lashley says that he's been impressed that Theory stayed around, but he couldn't get the job done even with the scraps that he left against Seth Rollins. Austin Theory replied that Lesnar kicked Lashley's ass twice, and that he also couldn't get the job done when it comes to beating Seth Rollins because he lost the title to Seth Rollins. Then they got into a fight in which Austin Theory decided to run away, which, took forever to get there, but we finally got there. Lashley's the kind of person you shouldn't run away from, just for the record. Theory fled backstage where he got into another fight with Mustafa Ali and then pushed Mustafa Ali into Lashley. He got away, so that pissed Lashley off. So Lashley decided he was going to wreck Mustafa Ali because he was present in this situation. And he beat the hell out of Mustafa Ali. So the triple threat match, somebody mentioned this on Twitter, and I think it's interesting. It is essentially supposed to be heel versus heel versus heel, which is an incredible dynamic. But when you look at the way Seth has been getting cheered lately, he's sort of the face in this situation. That being said, you had Seth in his promo mock Cody Rhodes. So he was mocking Cody Rhodes, which got boos. You had Lashley, who was essentially a babyface until he beat up Brock Lesnar. They had him toss babyface Mustafa Ali around. So they're trying to go with the whole tweener vibe, and that's just as bad as the pick your own adventure of AEW. Just baby faces and heels. That's why triple threat match doesn't make any sense, because there shouldn't be tweeners. So if you want to have Lashley as a force of nature, who it doesn't matter who it is, you can get these hands. That's fine. That works for a guy his size. It worked for Undertaker. It worked for Sid. It could work for a guy it worked for Brock. It could work for a guy like Lashley. You can put Lashley in a position where It doesn't matter if if you're a babyface or a heel. If you get in his way, he's gonna whoop that ass. That works for him. Doesn't quite work for Seth Rollins. Seth Rollins is either going to be sneaky and underhanded or something like that. So him taking a shot at Cody got boos from the crowd. But if this is supposed to be a babyface in your storyline, why would you want him getting booed? That doesn't make sense. If the people should have somebody in the match that they want to see win the match. I mean, goddamn, what is up with these wrestling companies? Why is it that we can't have a situation where there has to be somebody in the match that we want to see win the match? We should want to see people win. I'm guessing that, if you put people in this situation, they will choose Seth Rollins. I'm guessing is going to be the guy of choice, but Lashley could also be the guy of choice, considering his situation with Brock. It's not that people, loved Brock and didn't like that Lashley was beating Brock up, because considering they were, equally interested in both guys. But I would love, solid baby faces and solid heels. I would love that, but, modern wrestling, they think they're above it for some odd reason. All right, Chad Gable and Otis defeat Elias and Matt Riddle in a match that was entirely too long. And this is a match that really kind of just drew my energy out. I was just like, oh my God, why is this match happening? For Christ's sake. And I think Chad Gable is the only person that has been on every single episode of Monday Night Raw since Triple H took over. I'm not sure if anybody else, I think maybe Bayley. But Chad Gable has been on every single episode. And they foreshadowed this match last week, of course. Then they had Alpha Academy lose it. Look, when Riddle came out and he barely got any reaction. For starters, Elias didn't get any reaction at all. But Matt Riddle barely got a reaction. It take me back to the Halcyon days of maybe a couple of months ago, where this dude was one of the most over people on the roster. Of anybody, Riddle was getting huge reactions. And Triple H has reversed course. And they did the same thing with Matt Riddle they did with Austin Theory. He's going to be serious. And people can get into a serious presentation. That's fine. But you have to keep Matt Riddle with his personality, which is what people liked. What they did here is that they've leaned too far into the bongos and all that kind of stuff. And he ends up, over the barrier. He's over the line where people doesn't really care about any of the stuff that he's doing anymore. When he should have been in the mix. He should have been in, to be quite honest, he probably should be on this War Games team, if we being honest. Because he got beat up by the Bloodline as much as everybody else did. He got beat up by the Bloodline far more recently than Kevin Owens. Like, I get that Triple H is trying to position his boys, and Kevin Owens is like his number one guy. But, Riddle would have been a great addition to this match, to the War Games match too. But there's no place to put him, because you got the three Brawling Brutes and then Drew McIntyre, all of which makes sense because it's the Bloodline feuding with another faction. Then you add, of course, Drew McIntyre, who was, screwed out of his title because of Solo Sikoa. And you got Kevin Owens and Sami Zayn. So it's a perfect team on the other side. But Matt Riddle not being involved in anything that matters is really affecting his crowd reaction, because we know that the people love the guy, and there was a point in time there where people were saying that their kid's favorite wrestler was Matt Riddle, because they loved him. But that's starting to wane. It's starting to go away, and they need to do something about it. I don't know what they can do. They've already had Riddle beat Seth Rollins. But now he's falling off a cliff and he's doing like hardcore mid-card shit. And that needs to stop. This match sucked and it was too long. Even if the match was good and great, it was still too long between four guys that nobody really wanted to see out there. Especially Elias, who is dead in the water. I don't know. Chad Gable and Otis could be fun, but they're just kind of floating about too. They're not really doing much of anything. They're not in the hunt for the tag team titles or anything like that. They just kind of exist on this show. JBL and Baron Corbin are playing poker backstage. JBL rags on Albany, New York, saying the only thing worse than living there is dying there. Drew McIntyre interrupts their game. They get into a bit of a conversation about WrestleMania in which Corbin lost to Drew McIntyre, and it wouldn't have happened if JBL was there. So McIntyre decides to run it back. They have the match. It wasn't too fucking long. This match was long as hell. And plus, it had a run-in from Akira Tozawa, who was back in his wrestling gear, as if that matters, and sporting blonde hair. So he bleached his hair and put on his wrestling gear, but he's still being silly as he distracts Corbin and JBL by snatching JBL's hat and running off. And I was like, okay, he's about to do Jimmy Wang Yang. You know, I just joked. I hope I don't ever see him do it, but that would suck ass for him. So last week after he lost, Tozawa basically said goodbye and folded up his ninja gear and took a picture of it, leading people to believe that he was probably going to leave WWE. But instead, he's just putting the ninja thing behind it. Okay, that's fine. But why is he featured on this show? Why is he involved in this match? I get it. He got beat up by them last week, but it's Akira Tozawa. You know, if you're going to rebuild him, repackage him, do it somewhere else. Corbin is a guy that I guess they were trying to repackage, that they were trying to do something with. So him being mixed into Akira Tozawa is not, that ain't going to work. That ain't going to work at all. That didn't make any sense at all. You know, that's a tough one. That's a tough pill to swallow right there. But McIntyre beats Corbin, so that shit's all over Corbin's repackaging and his new situation, because he's just kept right where he was before. You couldn't beat Drew McIntyre before, can't beat him now. So there that goes. Just shocked that they bothered to bring in Akira Tozawa. This show was bad. It was bad, okay? It was just long and it was a slog. It was just not good. It was just not good. Not a good show. And I'm glad that other people are starting to notice and say something about it, because, you know, being one of the few people who was kind of like, but it was better than Vince. So, like, I'm not even comparing it to Vince, really, you know, but that stuff really ends, again, after WrestleMania. I'm not even comparing it to Vince anymore. But the thing that made Triple H's shows different is that he was actually taking risks and doing stuff. But, you know, he's trying to freshen up people who've been around for a long time, like Baron Corbin. You know, been there forever, needs some type of repackaging, needs something to happen for him. They go through all the work of repackaging Nikki Cross just to keep her in the same place. They do all this stuff with Akira Tozawa just to keep him in the same place. They do all this stuff with Baron Corbin just to keep him in the same place. They do all this stuff with Matt Riddle just to keep him in the same place. Where's the fucking progress here? Like, if everybody is going to just stay in the same place, you know, Elias, they went through all the trouble of getting rid of Ezekiel and all that just to keep him in the same place. So it's like nobody's really progressing. So what really is are we doing here? Except wasting everybody's time. And I wish they would stop doing that. Triple H, stop wasting everybody's time, brother. This show is boring as hell, and it doesn't need to be. So I don't know what to tell you. Hopefully things get more interesting after Survivor Series. That being said, the Survivor Series card itself is awesome. You know, I love the Survivor Series card. It's very good. The Bloodline War Games match is very good. AJ Styles versus Finn Balor from an in-ring perspective is going to be very good. I mean, the story hasn't been great, but in-ring it ought to be very good. The triple threat match, I'm not really excited for triple threat matches, but it ought to be pretty good. You know, it ought to be fine. So there's a lot to look forward to at Survivor Series. It's just unfortunate that the stories and the shows going into it probably won't be all that great. All right, so what did you guys think? Like, share, subscribe. I'll talk to you guys later. Peace out.